Big congratulations to this man right here, Jared Davidson of the Laval Rocket, because it was announced earlier this morning, and I say earlier this morning, it's literally 6:34 a.m. as I'm recording this video in Vancouver. The Montreal Canadiens announced they have given out a 2-year entry-level contract for Jared Davidson. Take a look at this right here. You might say, okay, wait a minute. If he's signing his ELC now, then how do they have pictures of him in Canadiens jerseys? Well, it's because he did actually get drafted by Montreal a few years ago, and he played a preseason game against Ottawa earlier this season. But let's go out there and read this piece right here. Montreal Canadiens GM Kent Hughes announced on Friday that the team has agreed to terms on a 2-year ELC from 24-25 to 25-26 with forward Jared Davidson. He had played 38 games with the Laval Rocket in the AHL in 23-24, recording 16 points, 11 goals, and 5 assists in his first year as a pro. The 21-year-old centerman ranked third amongst Rockets rookies in goals, trailing only Logan Mailloux and Josh Waugh. Before making the jump to the AHL, Davidson appeared in 254 games with the Seattle Thunderbirds in the WHL from 2018 to 2023. The 6-foot, 183-pound forward totaled 210 points, 99 goals, and 111 assists in 5 seasons in Seattle. Davidson won the Ed Chynoweth Cup with the Thunderbirds in 2022-2023, awarded to the WHL playoff champions before reaching the Memorial Cup, where they were bested by the Quebec Remparts in the finals. Davidson was selected by the Canadiens in the 5th round, 130th overall of the 2022 NHL Entry Draft. Now, the thing about that is the fact that a 5th round pick is even getting a contract in the first place, a guy that the Canadiens decided to take themselves from the 130th overall selection 2 years ago, is now in a spot where he is legitimately getting an opportunity to be an NHL player. That's awesome. Now, I know it's not guaranteed. ELCs get signed for guys who are just going to be in the AHL all the time. But the fact is, he's going to be making that money. And this is a really good story for a guy who, at 21 years old, 6 feet, 183 as a center, left-handed guy, this certainly isn't really something that you could have projected when he was a 5th round pick by the Habs all the way back in 2022. His stint with the Seattle Thunderbirds was really great. He had multiple 80-point seasons back-to-back and then was over a point per game in the playoffs, which is why the Canadiens took their time to give him a contract with Laval. He had signed, I believe it was a 1-year deal with the Rocket, which is how he was able to play in 23-24, 38 games played, 16 points and 11 goals, as we had said. But if you want to go over the story and the profile here of Davidson, just try to see what it is that he could be. Obviously, it's an easy conclusion to make that, yeah, this guy's probably going to round out more so as an AHL guy. If he does get a cup of coffee at the NHL, I feel like that would be a big win. But for the most part, the fact that he is getting pro-level contracts is a really big win. And if everything works out for the Montreal Canadiens, there are some good things that we can pay attention to. This is what Dobber Prospects went out there and wrote about when it comes to Davidson. He has been a joy to watch during Canadiens training camp. He's definitely slow, but his offensive dynamism is incredibly noticeable. While many believed he would start his pro career in the ECHL, especially due to the massive surplus of forwards in the organization, he is definitely pushing for time in the AHL. It'll be interesting to see where the team starts him off, but the one thing sure is that he'll be able to contribute a lot of offense. So this is a guy who, even as far back in September 2023, there was already kind of a doubt as to whether or not he would be an AHL guy. But then, he was. If you go over to the August 2022 report by Sebastian High, he went out there and broke down the ins and outs of Davidson's game. Of course, though, this is 2 years old already, but considering the fact that the guy was 19 when it was written, I guess there's still some value in being able to acknowledge it now. Selected in the 5th round in 2022, Davidson had a breakout draft plus 2 season, scoring 89 points in 64 games to lead a strong Seattle Thunderbirds team in both categories and clearing the runner-up by 10 goals and 23 points each. Despite this, he is a bit of a curious bet for the Habs to make in the 5th round. His stride is very choppy and features little knee bend or ankle flexion, which makes him quite slow and not very adaptable. He also doesn't keep his feet moving in the offensive zone, favoring gliding into position, which makes him predictable. The handling skill is also not a standout. His upside in transition is very limited, but in the offensive zone, his awareness level is good, he's got a hard shot and good passing ability from tight situations, and these make him a productive WHL player. For this to translate to pro hockey, however, the Habs will need to work with him on his skating and help him increase his involvement in play when off puck in all 3 zones. So, of course, this is from 3 seasons ago, pretty much. It's not really the most up-to-date thing, but it still is interesting to acknowledge the profile as to where he came from, how he was a very productive, maybe choppy skater in the WHL, but how over time he has worked his way up to the AHL and gotten himself the contract that he has received today. So just a great comeuppance story, I would say. Comeuppance, is that the right word? No, it's not. No, comeuppance is a bad thing, right? What I also wanted to do was go over to another article published by Montreal Hockey Now from a year ago, June 13th, 2023. It goes over Davidson and his WHL days, but I also wanted to go over some comments made by Cam Robinson in regards to this guy. Jared Davidson is a great story. He was a walk-on with the Thunderbirds as a 16-year-old, worked his way up from the 4th line to the 3rd line, all the way to being a top-line option in all situations on a championship-caliber squad. It landed him a 5th-round draft selection and will likely earn him an ELC soon as well. It took a year for that ELC to be signed for Davidson, but he is good enough to get it. He is relentless on the forecheck, he takes good routes and works the cycle successfully, he wins big faceoffs, he transitions the puck effectively with a shifty and disruptive style, and he's unafraid to throw nearly everything on goal. He's not an elite finisher, but he collects off the volume approach that works for him. I don't foresee him being a highly productive NHLer, but the type of guy who could play in multiple situations, be a versatile tool for a coach to use, and can chip in with some points when needed. This also does not go out there and talk about his skating, which was considered a big problem by the folks over on Dabra Prospects. And of course, this article is a year old too, so there's still more up to date with Davidson and his profile in 2024. But for now, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you've been watching the Laval Rocket this season, what are your thoughts on Jared Davidson getting that ELC with the Montreal Canadiens? All I can do is sit here and say, hey, congrats. A guy who was able to work his way up from 4th line to top line, be an undrafted guy multiple seasons in a row to eventually get drafted as an overager in the 5th round, to now being an AHL guy when some thought he could have been an ECHL guy instead. Now he's on the Montreal Canadiens payroll, officially being paid that dollar, not just the Laval Rocket payroll, and this is a very big win for a guy who worked his way all the way up to get here. What do you think his ceiling is going to be? Honestly, I don't think anybody should be expecting much, because, 5th-round picks normally don't become NHL players just in general, but again, if he's a great AHL guy who gets the hang of that feeling in that league and is eventually called up to play a few games here and there, once in a while for the Canadiens over the years, that's a pretty good career, honestly, especially for a dude who had exhibited the growth that he has had so far. So that's kind of my projection here. Nobody's really saying that he's going to be a franchise talent or anything, but if you have any differing opinions, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as well. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Jared Davidson signing his ELC. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.